I see we're at about 31, so I think it's a good time for us to get started. We wanted to welcome all of you here, our longtime funders, our prospective funders, and all of the wonderful partners that we have. We're so happy to have you here and join us as kind of friends, co-conspirators, and allies that are here to support and uplift ICA's work. I want to remind our team that these are our friends and our allies, so we can definitely be our true selves and really show that passion of who you are and why you work at ICA and why we love having all of these wonderful people here with us. With that being said, I also wanted to mention and give a lot of shout out to our development team who were the ones that organized this. You may know Sherry Island did a lot of back-end work on this, as well as Jamie, who you'll meet in a minute. And I also wanted to acknowledge our new development manager, Sarah Hernandez, who is absolutely wonderful, and I'm sure you will meet at some point or be in contact with. So just wanted to let you know that we had a new one, and if you'd like to take a look and read her bio, it is on our website. With that being said, I wanted to, again, welcome you all and let you know that we're so excited to be having you here. In this next hour, we're going to be talking about a lot of ICA's work over the last year and the foundations that it has built for us as we continue through 2023. So as you can kind of tell, our team has grown so much in 2022. I'm already way ahead. And in that year, we grew so much and it was so great. Not only has our capacities grown, but we're working hard to continue to address those gaps in our resources and in programming for Indigenous leadership in climate solutions. So today we have a really great group of folks. We have Ariel Deranger, Angel Brandt, Vanessa Gray, Carol Montour, and Jamie Bork-Blind, who I'm actually going to pass it to introduce themselves. So right over to Ariel.
Iklanete, Danesotsaneta, Ariel Tsaekwe, Fouché, Deranger, Betsini, Hesli. My name is Ariel Tsaekwe Deranger, and I'm a member of the Athabasca Chippewan First Nation. Thought we were going to do a little round of introductions for everyone who's on the call. I guess I'm starting first. So thank you so much for bringing us and kicking us off, JC. It's been so wonderful to work with such a great team. I'm the executive director and co-founder of Indigenous Climate Action, and I'm based out of Amiskwaci, Waskahigan, also known as Edmonton in Treaty 6 territory. And I am a member of the Athabasca Chippewan First Nation, which is located in Treaty 8 territory in Northern Alberta, in what is considered Arctic Zone A. And I will pass it to Vanessa.
Ani, Buju, Vanessa Gray, Indishnakas, Amjanang Donjaba, Anishnabani Dao, Makwanin Dodem. Hi, I'm Vanessa Gray. I'm from the Amjanang First Nation. I'm Anishinaabe Kwe, and I'm from the Bear Clan. I am currently based in Toronto, Ontario, and I am the divestment campaign coordinator. I'll pass it to Angel.
Sego Tansei, Angel Brandt from Tyendinaga, Mohawk Territory out in Ontario. I was originally born in Manitoba and am Cree, but was later adopted into my Mohawk family. I am the youth engagement coordinator here at ICA, and I'll pass it on to Carol.
Scano, everyone. My name is Carol Montour. I am Mohawk Wolf Clan from Six Nations of the Grand River Territory, where I'm coming to you live from. I'm the climate leadership coordinator here at ICA. Started with the team about 1.5 years ago now, and just really excited to chat and what we've been up to. And I'll pass to Jamie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamie Bork-Blind. I am from Pasquamustusiagan, the Buffalo Lake Métis settlement in Treaty 6 territory, and I am the engagement manager with ICA. It's nice to see everyone here today. I will pass it over to JC.
Yes, I just realized as I passed it all to you that I didn't introduce myself, and all you were probably wondering, like, who is this person that's introducing ICA? So Ani Bojo Binande Beneshikwe Indigenous Gittiganzi B Donjaba Gigo and Dodem Anishinaabe Kwayanda Port Moody Megwandinda. So my English name is JC Chiblo. I'm from Garden River First Nation, but I currently live and reside in unceded Coast Salish territory just outside of Vancouver in an area called Port Moody that was actually a really great gathering place for the 5 Indigenous nations that called this place home and have been continuous caretakers of the land since. All right, well, I wanted to also give you a brief idea of our agenda today. So we already went through the welcome and introductions. Again, we're so happy to have you here. We're going to get into what our programs and pathways are, also talk a little bit about our engagement from 2022 and some of the key partnerships that we had. And then of course, we got to get into what's next for ICA. And then there will be some space for Q&A. And we did get your note in the chat that currently the chat is disabled, but the question and answer thing is open. We're trying to resolve that. So thank you for letting us know. And with that being said, I will pass it to Ariel to give us an idea of where the organization's been at this year.
Messi Cho, thank you so much. So there you can see some of our beautiful faces. Those are all the speakers and our roles and positions in the organization right now. But I just really wanted to sort of set the groundwork for who we are and where we come from. And ICA really undertook some really big work last year. We really focused on restructuring the organization to really help create these empowerments in different, what would normally be called departments. But we looked at ourselves and we were like, we don't really want departments. We want something that's a little bit more indicative of community. And what better name than to call our sort of groupings pods. And so in ICA, we have 5 pods. And it's so incredible how we've been able to do this, which is our heart and soul pod, which is really the roots of our organization in this flower image on the left-hand side of the screen, which is the heart and soul are our board of directors, our advisory committees, our steering committees, all the groups that give us the information and the knowledge and the direction to really help grow our programs and grow our organization from inside to outside. And you can take a look on our website. I think a link will be shared with the folks. I'm not sure how, but a link to check out our website and who we are. You can read more about each pod and what they do. But just as a little overview, we have the stewardship pod, which comprises of our development team and the executive leadership. We also have the nourishment pod, which is our finances and our operations to nourish the entire organization. We have the Explore and Blossom pod, which is our programs and our education and training. And it's such a lovely way to see that explore and blossoming into the world. And of course, and last but not least, is our Inform and Connect pod. And this is the pod that helps us with our development of our media strategies, our comms and engagement, everything that we do to sort of engage in the broader world. And that's really like who we are, this beautiful structure of who we are. But one of the biggest shifts that we had in 2022 is that ICA shifted from being a project under the Polaris Institute to being a fully incorporated independent organization. And it was a very, very big shift. And we were so sad to no longer be working with Polaris Institute, but it really helped us to take new roots in these soils and really move forward in a new direction as an independent entity. Next slide. Part of our other big shift for last year was our theory of change, where we see ourselves. Could you go back just to the other slide just for 1 second? Just movement. Yes, thanks. So we really wanted to land in what is our theory of change. We've been doing this work for about 5 years, and we really saw that our organization was in service to our communities. We are really trying to build tools and resources, amplify the voices of our communities, and find ways to serve our communities. Next slide. And as we really dove into this, we started thinking about how do we actually do this? How do we see our work playing out? And we see this, that we have sort of strategic disruption of the colonial systems that have harmed our communities. And so this is land defense, this is, intervening in policies, this is all the different sort of frontline traditional activist work, but what Indigenous peoples have been doing since colonization. And then we saw the other side, which needed to be equally held, which is nurturing the capacities of our communities. And that is through our education and tools and resources. And we know that all of this is to build that future, that new future where we can all live in a climate stable future that sees our communities as thriving communities. And this is really, really important because we know that climate change demands more than protest or the reduction of GHGs. It requires liberation from the root causes of planetary injustices. And as a decolonial organization, we value Indigenous ways of being that invite a radical imagination and space for creativity and exploration. And we know that as a decolonial movement servicing organization with relevant programming, we are really setting a new foundation for new revolutionary work. And we do this by amplifying Indigenous rights, worldviews, value systems, and ways of being. We are investing in the seeds of the future and changing how we participate and lead as Indigenous peoples in the climate justice movement. And so we're really, really excited to see all the different ways that we're able to do this. And of course, you know, this whole presentation is going to be showing you and demonstrating just how we do that. And what a great way to start this off with strategic disruption, nurturing capacities, and creating new, then starting with a reflection video from our time in Egypt at COP27.
I don't know. This place is so big. It's like 20 minutes to walk from one end to the other. We've been here for technically a week, and I still get lost.
This is Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, at COP27, and we're in the halls of the meeting rooms where the negotiations, the multi-stakeholder dialogues, and different sessions to discuss the different elements of the climate agreement.
I think it's important for BIPOC people to be in a space like this, especially, you know, being on like the African continent right now. Like, there's been such a long history of people here not making decisions over their territories, and being in a space where there are so many people of color present, and how transformative that is too for them, I'm sure, like to be able to take up that space in a venue like COP.
Because we need to be coming together. All of those folks have also been oppressed, have also experienced colonization in their own way. And for us to come together in a space like this and build these relationships and learn from those experiences together is what we need to have actual solutions that can work.
Indigenous peoples have been raising the alarms on climate change since before the inception of the UNFCCC and continue to drive forward solutions and aggressive targets that are beyond what we're seeing negotiated within the state negotiations. In addition, we are not looking for market-based solutions. We're looking for solutions that are about righting our relationship with the natural world, as well as our relationships with each other. We are not just here as tokens, we are here as rights holders and advocates for what's best for Mother Earth and the planet as a whole.
We're so glad we got that working for you all. It's really great. Just a little snippet of some of the stuff that we did at COP27 last year with quite a few of our team that went. And with that, I think it's time to, Ariel, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we move to the next part?
No, I know I'm unmuted. I just forgot to unmute, but thank you so much for bearing with us. Technical difficulties.
Yes, and now we're going to get into some of the program work that we did last year at ICA. And I'm, of course, as someone that's worked really closely with Carol and the Climate Leadership Program, I'm so excited to pass it along to you to hear from Carol some of the stuff that she did last year. So go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, so I think this is actually like a nice segue away from sort of the UNFCCC climate side and more into like what we talk about, like nurturing capacities and strategic disruption with the Climate Leadership Program. So 2022 was a huge year for our training. We launched a pilot in 2021, and then we offered our first public one. And then 2022 was a big year for growth. So the program has been thus far done mostly via Zoom. we are moving into some more in-person offerings. And so this photo that you're looking at is from a training earlier this year, actually, at the Squamish Nation that JC and I did. We had a good group of about 15 people. But over the climate leadership program, for those who maybe aren't familiar, we developed this over a period of years that came out of community saying we want more Indigenous-led solutions. We want climate work that isn't just centered on, again, like these UNFCCC negotiations or just like these technological solutions. We want community-led. And so this toolkit came out of that. It came out of community and workshops. So it's a popular education style community workshop by and for Indigenous people about climate change. And over 2022, we really settled into this really great rhythm. And over the days, and we focus our themes with 3 major themes, and each day having a specific sort of message that we try to adhere to. And we're always going to be centering Indigenous knowledge. And so we want to hear from participants about their knowledge of how climate change is affecting their territories. And one of the benefits of there's cons to Zoom, but there's also benefits in that we're able to get people from all over the country. And so there's so many different experiences and perspectives that people have, and you're able to glean so much knowledge. And then we talk about the climate science, and we really delve in deep to the issue of climate change. And so people are able to feel confident talking about climate change. They understand what's happened. We also talk about specific policies that led up to this issue of climate change, as well as resistance. And then we try to, it's popular education. So we're trying to get in as many different formats as we can and try and hit all those different learning styles that people have. One of my favorite games we do is climate bingo. So we work as a group to name specific terms based off of the definition. And again, just like working with a group and getting that different perspectives that make us stronger. And then we always end off with Indigenous solutions. And again, like we're always highlighting that solutions to climate change are not just wind and solar farms, but we highlight the importance of cultural revitalization, of language reclamation, of bringing back these cultural protocols as a means of climate, as a climate solution, and empowering people who can look around and say, well, what do I do? And we want to assure people that as Indigenous people, we already have a blueprint for a balanced existence for life on Mother Earth. And a solution out of it is to go back to that as we move into the future. And we want to make people feel capable and competent of taking action and doing that in their communities. And the goal is to be able to develop regionally relevant strategies so people all over are able to have their own knowledge affirmed, really know the basics of climate change and climate science, and then they can take their solutions and go, what do we do with this now? And so we're hopefully, we were actually able to successfully train 75 people from across the country last year in our training, as well as our facilitation training. So we teach people how to organize their own climate leadership program. And so we have participants now who've taken it and they've done the facilitation training. And we had somebody who was able to facilitate this training in Squamish with us. And it's been a really exciting year. We did a training again in Squamish. We're hosting another climate leadership program in a week. So if anybody is actually interested, we still have room if you want to email us and jump in on that super last minute. But yeah, this program is really close to my heart. I feel like I learn so much every time we do it. It's been great getting to hear different perspectives. We're bringing it to my community, Six Nations of the Grand River, later on this year. And then again, we want to get more in person and like really build this out and nurture that capacity. And so with that said, I think that's about all I can do for this little segment, but it was definitely a great year. And I think that's it for me.
That's great. So I also wanted to let folks know that we do have a Q&A. So as folks are presenting, you can feel free to type in those. And then when we get to the question and answer period at the end, we'll start answering them for you. So just wanted to welcome that and make sure folks knew about that. And with that, I will pass it over to Vanessa to talk about our awesome new program, Indigenous-led divestment.
Thanks, JC. Thanks, everybody. I've been also very much enjoying this presentation and hearing from everybody, even though we meet all the time, but it's still like nice to hear and nice to see like everyone's hard work and yeah, it's just like really good to see community. So I am from a frontline community as well. And a lot of like petrochemical facilities are pretty close to like the houses in my community, and there's a lot of like health and environmental concerns. And so this work within like the divestment movement is really close to me because more than anything, I'm sure it's the same how everyone else feels in frontline communities, that we are always looking for like accountability when it comes to the impacts that we face. And so it's been a really big year for connecting within community and supporting those who are constantly under attack, and then like helping people learn that there could be a place for them within like the divestment movement. So with our existing contacts within the Wet'suwet'en Nation and Get 'em Done, we supported a Sovereign Summer Tour where they came across all of like Canada, but I was able to join the tour within like my own community, and I gave hereditary chiefs a toxic tour of my community, and that's like a grassroots like thing I had started like many years ago. And so being able to bring in like my grassroots work within ICA and like being able to connect with hereditary chiefs was a very important moment for myself. And then being able to support the chiefs on their tour through Regina and Edmonton. Like it was just nice to like build a stronger connection with the hereditary chiefs and all the important work that they do. And they've been very active within like a divestment approach to the CGL pipeline issue in their own territory, understanding that the company is funded by banks that are funding all kinds of problematic projects in like many of our communities. And that's exactly what this campaign is about, is connecting the banks to the projects that are impacting all of our communities. So last year in 2022, the Chiefs did come all the way to Toronto, where the financial sector sits, and they always do like their AGMs here, and they came all the way here, and then we're told they weren't allowed to attend the meeting, period, which was a bit embarrassing on their end, because they do try to say that they have good Indigenous relations, but we all know this is not reality, especially for those on the ground who are directly impacted by these projects that RBC is funding. So with this one very big, I guess, project, it is actually inspiring, and it's helping communities learn these connections, and it's a growing movement that we support them, but we also need to figure out how we need to hold banks accountable in our own communities. And so part of this Indigenous-led divestment is looking at how banks could have better policies around our Indigenous rights, and not only like environmental rights generally, but for the free, prior, and informed consent that these companies should have before pushing through with these major projects. So it is a very, it's a lot, this the Indigenous-led divestment, but I love it very much because I love a variety of strategies, and I love that community can choose how they want to interact with these movements, and that there are different ways to do that. There was much more I was going to say, but I'll leave it at that. And I'll end off with just saying that this is a growing movement, and I really look forward to where ICA continues to take this project. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Vanessa, for that intro to just a little snippet of the amount of work that Vanessa did over last year. And I just wanted to say, like, great job, Vanessa. And like, what's coming next up, hopefully in the coming soon for ICA, is finding ways to make sure that we get this information out to communities through more education and training. So this is the end of the Explore and Blossom pod at the moment for what we have, but we do welcome you to take a look at the annual report to read more about all of the extra things that we just didn't have time to say. So thank you, Explore and Blossom. Great job. I'm going to pass it over to Angel to get us started on youth engagement.
Thanks, JC. Yeah, there's a lot to say about youth engagement. The youth are constantly moving, and they're constantly active in the movement space. So I'll just start off by talking about the Youth Leadership Council that we have here at ICA. And I'm just going to talk about how great they are, because they do a lot of work within their communities, and that's why they were chosen to be on the council. And so here's like a little slide with their introduction of name and where they're from. We chose members from all over Canada, and youth who are in particular very active, either on the front lines, movement spaces within their communities, or who have just a really serious passion for climate justice. And so working with these youth, I meet with them bi-monthly. In the beginning, it was monthly so that we could get to know each other a little bit more. And in these meetings, we pose the questions of like, how can we provide more opportunities for youth to be involved in climate justice movements? And also, what are current barriers to youth preventing them from participating in climate policy? And so a lot of these questions get asked in this space. It's a safe space for dialogue and innovation to happen. And so it doesn't just end there. We also have a Facebook group, and that's where a lot of like the community work happens, and they often share what's happening in their community, opportunities for other youth to get involved. I share some of the notes and what ICA is up to, and just things that they can interact with and share with their friends. And so another thing that they asked from one of these meetings was they wanted to know more about grant writing and grassroots funding. So we actually had a session with Sheila Muxlow and Chanel Gallant about how they can do that outside of the benefits and resources that ICA provides. So some of those resources are the Youth Wellness Honorarium. And this honorarium is intended to help relieve some of the financial stress that can often prevent barriers to some youth when trying to maintain healthy balances while doing organizing work. So a lot of the youth could use this money towards getting groceries, getting a massage, like paying rent. It's just to help offset some of those costs so that they can continue to do the amazing work that they do in their communities. We also have the Youth Solidarity Support Fund, which was created this year. And this fund was in need to help support the youth towards their movements. And this is This has been really successful. We've had amazing applicants so far. I'll give you just like a sum of what they've used the funds for. So some of it's gone towards attending Dusseldorf nonviolent direct action camps. So training around how to be on the front lines in a nonviolent way with your community. Some funds have also gone towards Ravensong Cultural Climate Action Camp. And this camp was to gather youth from one of the youth council's communities so that they can learn how to learn more about climate action and how they can be more involved. Another one was Camp 2030, and you can see at the bottom in the little circle picture here that they actually attended Camp 2030 and with the help of ICA. And so at this Camp 2030, they discussed how to get to zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, affordable and clean energy, climate action. So these two youth were sponsored to grow their networks, to amplify their voices and communities, and to just build relationships. And they actually wrote a really nice thank you letter back to us, and they'll be featured in our upcoming zine that we'll be sending out shortly. So working with the youth has just been really inspiring and empowering to see them do this work. I'll just go over some of the photos here again, because I feel like a proud auntie for all of these youth. But yeah, in the top corner here, you can see a large group of people, and that was at the AFN Climate Conference. And one of our Youth Leadership Council members, Avery, actually held a session called How to Achieve Land Back When Your Band, Elders, or Community are Unsupportive. And this was just beautiful because there was so many youth there, and all of the elders from AFN were there. There was 5 elders. And so just hearing them share their stories and that transfer of knowledge between generations, that is also a huge benefactor towards achieving climate justice. Yeah, so then we also like to inspire and amplify youth voices. And by doing that, we've created blogs, and we've also started posting on our TikTok, which is a very good platform if you want to engage youth. So we've created some fun videos there. And yeah, if you want to look at some of the blogs, they're on our website. And yeah, just being able to attend different conferences where youth are welcome to share their voices, where they're able to have discussion and workshops. Again, bringing back that innovation, Indigenous innovation, and break out into discussions that encourage a lot of collaboration between communities across Canada. So yeah, being able to work with the youth has been a huge honor. With the youth, you know, they bring a huge inspiration to what I think ICA can achieve in the future. And yeah, it's like every time I try and talk about the programs that we have at ICA to other people at conferences, they immediately want to know what we're up to next. And so I send them the links, and yeah, it's been really good. So if you have any youth interested, send them our way and have them check out some of our resources that we have available for them.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Angel. And I just want to also highlight that Angel is also actually a youth. So we have this young person doing such an amazing job and holding so much work, as you only got really a snippet of all of the amazing stuff that Angel actually does here at ICA. So thank you so much, Angel. That was absolutely wonderful. Again, just want to remind folks, if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A as we're presenting, and then at the end, we'll be able to answer them. So just wanted to remind folks. And with that, I will pass it to Ariel to speak about another new program, Healing Justice.
Thank you so much, JC. And it's just, I mean, I want to echo Vanessa's remarks of how, even though we all work together, sometimes it's really nice to be able to hear people speak to their work in this way. And it's really, really just so incredible to hear all the amazing work in this presentation today. So one of our newest programs or pathways is Healing Justice, and it is both a pathway and a program for us because we recognize that healing justice is a critical and essential part of the work that we need to do in order to achieve climate justice. There is no climate justice without healing justice. And this is largely because one of kind of ICA's mottos and sort of tagline that we use all the time is colonialism causes climate change and Indigenous rights are the solution. But colonization has caused generations and generations of harm and violence to our communities and our people and violence to the land. And we know that healing is a critical part of this work. Without healing, what are we working towards? What are we empowering? Like people that have all of this trauma, they need to heal from it in order to be able to step into those roles as the stewards and leaders in the climate justice movement. So we've done a few things over the last year. If you want to go to the next slide, I do want to also remark that Erin Consumo is our Healing Justice Manager, and in the framework of Healing Justice, she has requested some leave to heal from her own things, and we have granted that, and we are going to welcome her back when she is rested. And we think it's really important to honor the capacities and the boundaries that people put for themselves. But as part of our own internal processes at ICA, we have done a lot of really, really incredible work, including formally adopting and implementing a 4-day work week. This is starting to become more and more the norm in a lot of different organizations that really want to embody practices of seeing people's whole selves and not just workers and organizations. And I think it's really important that we understand that a 4-day work week is sustainable. As an organization that has moved through this for the last, we adopted it as like a potential in 2020 as people were trying to deal with the pandemic. And we realized that by 2022, that it was actually a practice that people did not want to ever let go of. A 4-day work week is just more sustainable. We are still able to get our work done, and we have happier, healthier staff members, because sometimes it can take a whole day, 24 hours, to sort of let go of that work week, and then 2 days to really nurture yourself and give yourself the energy to come back to work on the next following week. And I think that it's a really beautiful way to sort of honor people. But some other things that we've done internally in the organization is we also adopted something called Moontime Leave. And we know that for those that menstruate, that there is sometimes we need extra support. Some people have said that menstrual cramps are the equivalent of a male heart attack as far as pain goes, but we are expected to still work. But at ICA, we recognize that these are real limitations to the capacities to show up. And we respect and honor that even in pre-colonial times, women were given the space to go and be by themselves during menstruation, and adopting these practices internally as a reflection of those respects for our Indigenous heritages and cultures and practices. And to support all of this, we've also adopted a lot of workshops in the organization, including, nervous system regulation and offering supports through the Larry Tarango Healing Society to offer counseling services, elder support for our teams when they need it, when they're attending stressful events like COP27, and really trying to embody that. And then, really some of the biggest incredible work that Angel talked about with the youth wellness honorariums, we are trying to embody and make practices that are more external into the world in the coming year. And we're really trying to look at how we're doing that with an intersectional framework. How do we bring in intersectionality into the healing justice movement? And of course, you can look at page 35 of our annual report to see more about healing justice. And we are very excited to have Erin come back mid-year this year to really continue to drive this program forward and look at some more external offerings as we blend it in our internal processes for what healing justice can really look like.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much for that brief. Again, these are such brief introductions into some of the work that we do. And I really want to highlight a reflection that I had when you were speaking, Ariel, is like that 4-day work week, and then watching, all of the stuff that our team has done over the past year and continue to do on that 4-day work week is just absolutely impressive. I'm just always really impressed by how much work our team is able to achieve and do it at a pace that feels so good for us to be able to continue to show up so that we don't burn out and we continue to show up in a good way as we continue in this work. So really, really grateful for, of course, all of those extra things that we have here at ICA. So with this, I'm going to pass it over to Jamie to introduce your new role, Jamie, and introduce what partnerships are like here at ICA.
Hi again, everybody. Jamie Bork-Blind from the Buffalo Lake Métis Settlement. I did just start as the engagement manager about 4 weeks ago. So I am going to get a little bit of help from Ariel here to talk about some of the partnerships last year before I go into the new partnerships and the approaches that we're taking with our engagement strategy. So Ariel, do you mind?
Yeah, for sure. As Jamie said, he just started, but I did really want to make sure that we know that Jamie is really going to be holding our partnerships moving forward. Last year was a very busy year, actually. we were really involved with the AFN climate gathering, hosting workshops, and have a close relationship with AFN. Looking at their climate policies. I sit on the technical committee for I'm a technical participant in the ACE committee. But in addition to that, we also have been very busy within the UN, both with the Convention on Biological Diversity and the United Nations Forum Convention on Climate Change. And we participate and are doing a lot of work to support the Indigenous Peoples Caucuses in both those groups. But we've partnered with organizations like It Takes Roots and the Indigenous Environmental Network for a lot of our international climate justice work. In addition, we've been working with Keepers of the Water in hosting and participating in various gatherings, reports, and different actions and activities. 7th Gen Youth Energy Summit, sending youth participants and ensuring that we are there, also sharing some of our messages and our decolonizing climate work, our youth leadership and our climate leadership program. And we've also been working very closely with the Muskrat Collective and BIPOC DeCop to help get training and make sure people are skilled to participate in the international forums. And of course, Sacred Earth Solar, we've been working with them on the Just Transition Guide, Get 'em Den Nation with the work in divestment, the David Suzuki Foundation, Bioneers, Hollyhock, honestly, Stand.Earth, GP, Athabasca Chippewa First Nation, and the list goes on and on and on. We have really been trying to strategize and create good partnerships to identify the opportunities for communities through the last year. And we have some really great plans for the next year. And I will pass it back to Jamie to talk about some of the really cool initiatives that we have going for 2023. Also, Jamie's been helping to hold our relationship with a really exciting partner, which is Ben and Jerry's, which has been really, really exciting. And we're going to be doing some podcasts with them this year.
Thank you, Ariel. So yeah, just a continuation of what happened last year. One of the approaches we're going to be taking at or looking at first is our engagement strategy and how to utilize Indigenous knowledge systems when developing our new engagement strategy. So that would be anything from looking at Indigenous research methodologies and visiting methodologies as well, and how to engage with our partnerships. We're starting to see that we really want to, one of the big approaches we're taking is how to nurture and look to our relationships with Indigenous communities and Indigenous partnerships first, and the value and why we look to those relationships. So a really good example is one of our partners is how do I say it? I have a really hard time speaking in Dene, but it's Nohelesin that Otsin Nistame Nagamak Blue Quills University. And Blue Quills University it has a bit of a history. It used to be a former residential school, and it sits within the province of Alberta. Alberta had 33 residential schools. We have the most in so-called Canada. And only 2 of these buildings are still standing today. And Blue Quills is the only one in Northern Alberta. And this university has this building, it holds this history of being a residential school. And it has really grown, I guess you can say. Like, the story behind it is, after it was a residential school, the community did a sit-in to take ownership of this building to teach their own people. And it has grown from a grade school now to a university where you can get a doctorate in the Dene language. We see this partnership really as an important partnership because Blue Quills University is the only Indigenous-led and run university in so-called Canada. And since our work really revolves around looking to Indigenous knowledge systems, we want to see how we can foster or how we could, I don't want to say foster, nourish those knowledge systems. Because Blue Quills University is a university that does not receive core funding from the Canadian government. So there's a lot of work that has to be done on their part in order to just stay open and to function. So our partnership on how to nourish that, our relationship with them is to through mentorship on how to create pitch documents and how to connect them with funders in order for Blue Quills to do the work that it does, which is, first of all, maintaining and nourishing the history that it holds of being a residential school, providing ceremony for folks to heal from that trauma, and then offering programs to teach its own people to heal themselves from within through Indigenous social work programs, language revitalization, and looking at environmental issues as well, something new that they're going into. So I just wanted to share some of those relationships that we are looking at nourishing over the next little while. Am I at time?
Yes, I do want to make one last mention though, is Keepers of the Water and ICA, and it was announced in December of last year at the Keepers of the Water conference. I think it was Treaty Law Conference. We are co-hosting the annual or the Healing Walk, bringing back the Tar Sands Healing Walk. And I think what Jamie talked about with Blue Quills, we've also done with a lot of youth. We continue to hold our partnerships with Indigenous communities in that very beautiful way of partnership that is not to benefit us as an organization, but how our connections, how our relationships that we've established as an organization can support communities to develop their own sovereign programs and actions and ways of being within the climate justice movement. So it's a really beautiful way, and we're really excited for the Healing Walk in 2023. And some more information will be shared on that coming soon. But thank you, Jamie.
So again, just a snapshot into all of the amazing work that's coming up and that we've done over the last year. It's been absolutely wonderful. And of course, we encourage you to take a look at our annual report that's being released. It might already be linked. And if not, we'll be sending it in an email following up this wonderful webinar. Again, we're so grateful for your time. I also have time for a Q&A. So if folks would like to type into the question and answer piece, that would be really great. But in the meantime, if you could go back one slide, I think it'd be really great to kind of highlight our growth over the last year. And I believe Ariel was doing this.
Jamie and Ariel. I mean, so Jamie, you know what? I just pass it over to you, Jamie. You got this.
So our growth over the past, so like Angel mentioned, we did start a TikTok account, and we're really trying to look at how we can incorporate platforms that youth are already engaging with and how to tap into audiences that already exist to share the message and the work that we're doing. So we, as you can see here, we have quite a bit of growth over our Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. I believe TikTok's a little bit higher on that now that we have a team creating more content for us. But yeah, like our engagement as well on our website. We had 72,000 visitors and 140,000 page views in 2022. So really great job on ICA being able to reach out to our communities and allies and partners, not only in person, but out in the digital realm as well.
And big shout out to our communications team that did all of the heavy lifting for this kind of growth here at ICA. Our engagement, the whole team really, like Angel did a lot. Rosie as well was instrumental in getting a lot of this work done. And as well, we welcome Katie as well. So our comms team has been doing an absolutely wonderful job. And since I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, I'm wondering, Ariel, if you have one for the team or if you want me to ask one, since we have 5 minutes.
I can, sure. I'd love to ask a team a question. If there are no questions from the audience, I'm going to give you guys like 10 more seconds, and then I'm going to ask the team a question.
And we know we gave you a lot of information. So if you're like, I am not ready for a question right now, totally okay. Feel free to reach out to us if something comes up afterwards.
I think I'm going to just go off of this. What's next for ICA? What is the most exciting thing that you have planned for 2023 in your work?
We have 4
We have
minutes, so let's do,
Just,
yeah.
it's,
and we'll
it's,
just
it's
pass
like
it.
a speed round. Yeah, speed round. So just be like, more training or drop in a report or whatever it is.
Our Just Transition Guide will be released this year, so keep an eye out for that. I'm very excited about it.
I think for engagement, it's going to be the healing walk that's happening in August in Northern Alberta to help provide supports for Indigenous communities affected by the tar sands.
I'll go next. I'm excited to grow the divestment team within ICA and start making like educational materials out of the research that we did last year. And yeah, just having a larger team very soon.
I'm seeing there is a question in the chat. So a couple actually, and I know we have 3 minutes. So I don't know, Angel, did you already mention what you were excited for this year?
I'm excited for the Youth Leadership Council gathering and getting out the youth zine.
Yes, keep an eye out for that. That's going to be a really great thing to take a look at. So I'm going to start with the first one because there's a lot coming in that are really great. Unless Ariel, you see one that you think is like the most.
Well, I feel like there's 2 really good ones, Zipporah and Carol's questions. I might try to tackle them really quick just because we have we're running short on time. But when we talk about pushback against fossil fuel expansion, we really take the lead of communities. So that's a really, really important thing for ICA. So we are working with the Athabasca Chippewa First Nation, my community, along with Mikisew Cree Nation and Keepers of the Water that works with grassroots communities to look at the issues in the tar sands, including expansion plans, destruction of wetlands, and that is a big thing for us. But our focus when it comes to pushback is largely within sort of advocating for more space for the recognition of Indigenous rights within climate policy at the national level. As far as fundraising goals, that is a huge one, Carol. I mean, we could talk more about that, but part of our fundraising goals is we are looking for philanthropic partners to deepen our relationship of understanding that our work is emergent. As a movement servicing organization, some of our work moves and flexes to the needs of communities, and therefore we really look for core funding to really support the values and the mission and vision of our organization of supporting a future with thriving Indigenous communities that are leading the climate justice movement. And so we are looking for those long-term donors that can really help us to expand all of these beautiful programs and deepen our relationships with communities while we also deepen our relationship with many of our allies. There are other questions in here, including links to the annual report. But there is one specifically for you, Vanessa, and I don't know if we have time.
The question for you, Vanessa, is for the divestment work, do you plan to stay mainly focused on RBC or do you see that expanding? And I think if we could keep that really close, I know that some folks mentioned that we might be able to stay over, but also being mindful of everyone's time here. Feel free, Vanessa, to just answer that really quick.
Yes, I guess the answer is yes. We are sticking with RBC specifically, just because we are partnering with like a banking coalition that has been building a very strong case against RBC specifically. And I don't think that means we won't ever look at other banks, but I think looking at divestment in a Indigenous rights way or Indigenous sovereignty is still like a new thing. And so I think RBC is just the worst bank in Canada. So I think it's a really great starting point, especially because divestment in these terms is still newer for a lot of communities.
Beautiful, thank you. And I forgot sorry, Ariel, go ahead.
I just realized that we didn't touch on one other body of work that ICA is doing, and I do want to say, like, if we can stay for a few more minutes, it's just really that ICA is also doing a lot of reports. We said JT, there's all these different reports and work that's being done. And some of the big ones are Decolonizing Climate Policy Phase 2. We are going to be launching some chapters this summer and the full report by the end of the summer, hopefully, as well as the Just Transition Guide. But we are also partnering with McGill University to launch a report on Indigenous best practice or Indigenous rights best practices in international climate policy. We are also working on releasing a report on divestment and the history of Indigenous participation in divestment movements, as well as like best practices for FPIC in the banking sector. So lots of really rich information. And part of that is that we know that reports sometimes get put on shelves, and that is not what we want to do. JC is really got some incredible strategies of how we take these reports and turn them into workshops and ways to engage and build and nurture the capacities of our communities moving forward. We're not wanting to just create reports that just sit and just collect dust and pat ourselves on the back, because for us, it only makes a difference if our communities are feeling empowered and inspired to step into divestment, to step into youth leadership, to step into climate leadership, to step into all of the beautiful work that's being done across the team. Again, we are movement servicing. We want to see our communities grow and thrive, and we want to be able to have the capacities to continue to nurture that moving forward.
Beautiful. I don't even know how to finish after that. I'm seeing some folks are probably having to go. We thank you again for joining us and taking the time to listen, and encourage you to take a look at our website and read more about each of our programs and what we have planned for this year. Good. Thank you.
Masicho, thank you, everybody.